Okay, so one of the terms that's been sweeping through Silicon Valley lately is the concept of vibe coding. And it definitely has been a major conversation point of AI and various AI circles in early 2025. So we're going to discuss it in this video, including defining what it is, give a quick example showing how it works, discuss some best practices and ideal use cases, and then learn where and how we can actually put it to use right now to begin experimenting if you haven't already and see some success. So first thing we want to talk about is what vibe coding actually is. So one way to think about it is a loose, intuitive approach to software development using AI prompting, which will in turn generate your code, where the coder is relying more on instinct and a sense of the desired outcome rather than uh, relating to a lifetime of syntax and coding experience to build things in a more tedious way or in a more traditional way. It's like coding from a feel rather than an actual blueprint. So it's light on rules on how to do it, but heavy on iteration. And one of the keys is just to keep telling via prompt a chat inference engine what it is that you actually want, and then keep refining that until it gets it right. So it also helps democratize coding and will expand, if it hasn't already, the umbrella of people that can build applications, as well as becoming an invaluable tool for speed and innovation among more experienced developers who can much more quickly than ever before build and deploy applications in a more ad hoc or customized way than ever before. So it's pretty exciting for existing developers as well, and kind of a everybody wins type scenario. And so, if you want to discuss some of the key benefits of vibe coding, think fast track creativity, where vibe coding lets developers quickly build something that captures the spirit of an idea, skipping the traditional long planning phases and then starting from there. You can adapt on the fly, so it's a very flexible approach where through some of the initial iterations you can then begin to tweak the product as you go, responding to feedback or even your personal ideas without having to start over. You can just keep iterating through it. Of course, it prioritizes the user experience, so you can focus on making something that feels more intuitive and engaging for customers rather than being constrained by a certain programming language or framework as a starting point. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, you can save a lot of time, be more productive, and really boost innovation. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's see what we can create and generate using this vibe coding approach, and just keep it pretty simple for this video. As an example, let's take Claude's Sonnet 3.7 and create a foreign language learning web application in just a minute or so. And so what we need in order to do that is the ability to prompt. And so let's go to Claude, and what I want to do is just generate a quick application that helps us learn Japanese. A good example as any. And if you are somewhat familiar with the Japanese language, one of the core alphabets that it has is something called Hiragana, where you need to essentially memorize these symbols or characters. I think there's about 40 or so, which can be somewhat difficult for a Westerner to memorize, especially if you're not really familiar with this. So might make sense to build some flashcards to help with this. And so all we need to do is generate a prompt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Go language web application. And so here's the prompt I'm going to use. Can you generate a Go language web application ready to deploy that are flashcards for Japanese Hiragana characters? Show the character in the middle of the screen And then when you click on the character, it flips, and you can see the English sound that it makes. So just, a traditional flashcard type application. And then if you click on the card again, you move on to the next character. And then, of course, the characters should come up at random. So this should be enough for Claude to be able to generate an application, which, of course, is pretty amazing. So I'm going to copy that. We'll go back to Claude, paste in the prompt, and click Go. And it's going to start going to work. I realize this is kind of small, but it's going to start generating the Go code. You can see the characters being generated and some of the code and functions. And then now it's going to generate the HTML, which of course would be a separate file, which is pretty easy for Claude to do. And this is all, of course, we can adjust later, but for now we're going to let Claude run with it and create this application and create some event listeners such as clicking. Again, just all auto-generating while we sip on our lemonade or whatever it is that we're doing here, or in another window typing an email, whatever the case may be. And it's going to give me some requirements and some deployment options, different ways to do it. And then, of course, once we've actually built this, we'll skip the actual deployment steps for now because, of course, I want to actually deploy it to the web so you can see it. And that's where the developer experience comes in as well. You can take something that's generated for you, and then if you quickly know how to deploy it or where to put it or how to make use of it, it becomes very valuable. But if you're not as experienced, you can have Claude give you specific instructions on how to deploy it to your own machine, to a website. I've even gone ahead and have gotten a domain name that I've quickly deployed this to. Of course, come back here in a second when that's done. Okay, so if I go to, I just called it myhiragana.com because that was available. We'll click on it, and there it is. So I click on it, and it's giving me the various symbols and the letters or characters they represent. This is so. This symbol is me or may. Sa. If you're familiar again with hiragana, it's more, rather than actual letters, it represents sounds or syllables. And so you could click here. One thing you can't see, it's a little bit off the page. It tells you some of the different things that you've already seen. And just that quickly, we have generated a application, an entire web application using Claude and with a vibe coding approach. So that's pretty exciting. Again, if you want to see it, you can go here to this website to do so. Obviously, this concept will gain a lot of steam and will only improve with time. But of course, we need to be careful about putting applications into production that we don't entirely understand. So this, of course, will be one of the risks going forward with vibe coding, especially when these applications are interacting with other applications. So this is something we want to keep in mind early on. Maybe there's a limited scope of applications to use it on for now, especially until, one becomes very, adept with working with it and so forth. So to keep that in mind, these are probably some of the best use cases, building prototypes and gaining user feedback on these prototypes. Any type of experimental project where you might want to try out different ideas, different frameworks or development tools, perhaps building mini tools in an ad hoc manner for useful things that you might personally need. Maybe you want to do some data preparation, or you just want to build and try a function for performance reasons. Whatever the case may be, there's obviously no limit. And then, of course, ultimately the ability to iterate through the building of commercial applications. This will, undoubtedly become a big part of the story. and you can switch from different contexts and paste the code in as a starting point. It doesn't necessarily all have to be within one context window, and so there's no limit on how we can iterate. And of course, this represents a major, undeniable software engineering trend going forward, that I think we'll all gradually shift towards in one way or another, which is pretty exciting. And so, if you want to try this out now, you can just go to some of the AI web clients, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, several others, of course, or you can just directly generate code and get started. That might be the easiest way. But of course, there's other ways to use it. Claude Code is now available from Anthropic. You can make use of. There's vibe coding like IDEs out there, such as Cursor and Replit, that you might want to try. These are some emerging players in the space, and some other ones that I have not really looked at, but have discovered, such as Lovable, Bolt.new, and some of the other ones that you see here, Windsurf. So you can try it, and that's pretty much it. Just at the end here, real quick, to let you know what we do at Interzoid is that we use AI in a lot of different ways, along with algorithms and different knowledge bases, and we've built some essentially a cloud data platform, an AI-powered data quality platform. So if you've ever seen data that looks like this, that's really inconsistent and a bit of a mess, you know how hard it can be to work with this data and for it to be usable, much less use it for analytics, communications, or any other purpose. So we've got some tools, products, and APIs that help resolve these issues for many different types of data. So check us out at interzoid.com if you want to have a look. Thanks for watching, and best of luck with the vibe coding.